Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening. Bruchim habayim. Welcome and thank you so much for joining us. We are pleased to have such an incredible turnout, showing just how important and relevant this topic is to so many of you. We would like to start by thanking the Morris and Rosalind Goodman Family Foundation for their support and creation of scholarship opportunities for Ethiopian students in Israel, and to Mr. Benjamin Horwood for his ongoing and long-time support for Ethiopian students at the university. I am pleased to introduce our moderator for this evening, Mrs. Shauna Goodman-Sohn. Shauna is a former Montrealer now living in Nana with her husband Todd and 3 sons. She is the chair of the Morris and Rosalind Goodman Family Foundation and the founder of Summer Camps Israel, a collaboration formed to support the development of overnight summer camp in Israel for Israeli teens, and as a way of encouraging inclusion, pluralism, and personal development. She also combines her philanthropic work with her training as a chef, creating myriad culinary opportunities to highlight the social needs within the community. Welcome, Shauna.
Thank you, Ayala, and the team at Hebrew University and the Tel Aviv University who worked together on this webinar. The Morris and Rosalind Goodman Family Foundation is honored to provide scholarships for outstanding Ethiopian graduate students at these 2 world-class institutions. I'm so excited to introduce our panel of incredible women who all share a passion for social justice and the advancement and well-being of the Ethiopian Jewish community. Dr. Nigist Mengesha. Nigist was born in a small village near Gondor and made Aliyah in 1984 as part of Operation Moses. She is a community activist and advocate for the empowerment of Ethiopians. Nigist is the founder of FIDAL, the Association for Education and Social Integration of Ethiopian Jews in Israel. Currently, she serves as the director of the Education Division for the Rosh Ha'ayin municipality. Recently, Nigist was awarded the prestigious Samuel Rothberg Prize for Jewish Education from the Hebrew University. Mazal Tov. Michal Barak. Michal is the head of the recently established Unit for Diversity and Inclusion at Hebrew University, whose goal is designing and implementing a comprehensive policy for a holistically inclusive university. Prior to this, Michal directed the Center for the Study of Multiculturalism and Diversity at Hebrew University and worked for so many years in various organizations focusing on civic education and education for democracy. Michal Kotler-Wunsch, my friend. Michal was born in Israel and grew up in Canada, Montreal. She is a member of the Knesset for the Blue and White Party and serves as chair of the Special Committee on Drug and Alcohol Use and chair of the Subcommittee on Israel Diaspora Relations. In addition, she chairs the Canada-Israel Friendship Group and is the Knesset's official representative on matters relating to the International Criminal Court, and is a member of the Inter-Parliamentary Union. Many join us today from across Canada will also know Michal is the daughter of the renowned human rights activists, both Ariella and Erwin Kotler. We are so pleased to welcome 2 exceptional students today. Merav Asres, a recipient of the Morris and Rosalind Goodman Family Foundation Fellowship at Hebrew University, and Wanana Abrams, a student from the Orit Guardians program at Tel Aviv University. Welcome. Meirav grew up in Kfar Saba, my neighbor, and is currently a graduate student studying in the Global Program for International Development. After serving as team commander in the Dror course in the IDF, she and her friends set up Mentors in the Community, an award-winning project fostering academic, social, and personal support for youth of Ethiopian descent in Kfar Saba. Wanana was born in Bilbuha, a village in Ethiopia. Her family made Aliyah when she was 3 years old. She is a graduate student in the Orit Guardians program at Tel Aviv University, where she also volunteers in the community and recently founded a private Facebook group with over 1,900 members that encourages people to learn Amharic. Nana, thank you so much for offering to start off our discussion with our friends across Canada by sharing a little bit about the history of the Ethiopian Jewish community in Israel.
I'll try and give you a brief about the history of the Ethiopian Jews. What I must say, for first and foremost, is that I'm no expert, but as someone who made Aliyah and obviously coming from Ethiopia, then I know some information from my family and some, a lot of reading and getting to know with the history. I mean, in terms of the Ethiopian Jews, there is a lot of, I think, to my opinion, there is a lot of unknown than known. So, I mean, connection between the Ethiopian Jews and Israel that people know about, it's mainly the big operation that Israel took part and everything. But this is like a story of the Jewish community in Ethiopia who stayed in rural areas, try not to blend in with others, to keep the heritage and the Torah away from everyone, try to keep, like, they assume they're the only Jews in the world. They still believe like the temple is still there. So that's like kind of, they always wanted to go back to Zion. So that flame was always there throughout all generation. Every Ethiopian you ask him, he will always say that they were always longing and waiting to go back to Jerusalem, go back home to Zion. So I know from my understanding, at least, there was a connection between the Ethiopian Jews, the Jew community in Ethiopia to the outside Jews in the world. One indication for that is Dr. Faiklovich, who came, first time he came to Ethiopia to kind of understand about this Jewish community was in 1904. And he did 11 trips to Israel throughout the years and kept a lot of scripts and diaries and journals about his experience and what's going on. He was also trying to bring more of the Ethiopian Jews to Israel and abroad to learn the modern and more advanced Torah, because they kept it as much as they knew and they didn't have any information with the outside world. So in about 1921, he met Yona Bugale, and Yona Bugale invited a few scholars, like young Ethiopians, to go to Israel, learn Hebrew, learn the culture, and go back and teach. So we're talking about more than 120 years ago. That the connection, at least from what I know. So I'm assuming if Faiklovich knew about it and came in 1904, there probably was a longer connection that started way before that. And again, a lot of activists who travel around the world try to connect the small Ethiopian Jewish community to the outside Jews in the world and try to reunite back in Zion, in Jerusalem. So throughout the year, there was a lot of operation that Israel state took part in. Some was secretive, some were not. But the turning point, in a way, that manifest and grew the Aliyah to Israel was the rule of Rabbi Ovadia Yosef, Zichron Tzaddik Livracha, in 1973, who basically acknowledged and let everyone know that the Ethiopian Jews are real Jews, are the brothers, and they should be returned home. He also did not just decide, he relied on all the decision that was made by a different rabbi. So generally speaking, I came when I was 3 years old in 1991 with my family. I just learned that my grandpa could have come back in the 80s to Israel, but he decided to stay because there was a lot of Ethiopians who tried to come to Israel through Sudan or through other places, and they would be captured by the Sudanese or other people and be sent back to Ethiopia to go to jail for trying to leave. and he used to go and advocate for them to release them and then return them back to our village. And since he was wealthy, then he could provide them with food and whatever they needed to get back on their feet and try to go back to Jerusalem again. Even though he had the opportunity to come, he thought that he had a better goal in a way, because he knew this thing is going to take longer to get everyone. And because of his position, he knew it can help many more. Coming to Israel, he came in 1991 along with us, with the family. We came before the Operation Shlomo. It was a secretive operation of the Mossad, where we've been already in Addis Ababa, the capital of Ethiopia. And we had like fake passport as if we're flying to visit Italy. We've been there for one night, and then we basically continue our journey to Israel. So, trying and growing here in Israel and trying to integrate like any other aliyah was difficult, because there is a lot of things that are different, just beginning with the color of our skin. We're brown, we're white. I know a lot of the first people who met Jews outside of Ethiopia was a little bit didn't know, but they're white, because they assumed and thought that they were the only Jews in the world. So there was a lot of things that had to grow and learn, but we're doing our best, like the rest of the society, to be integrated and get in key roles and lead the world with everyone here in Israel.
Oh.
I hope I do. Not.
You're a wonderful storyteller, and definitely provided us with a great background of the Ethiopian community. So I bring ourselves to Nigist. Why does this matter? Why is it important that we have this discussion about the Ethiopian community experience and the significance of higher education at this point?
Thank you very much. Good evening, my friends in Israel, and good afternoon to our friends in Canada, Montreal. First of all, I'm proud of you. I would like to add some points about the first beginning of the outside world and the Ethiopian Jews. At the beginning of the 18th century, missionaries traveled to Ethiopia and converted Ethiopian Jews mostly by force. And at that time, in 1860, there was an article written by Stern that he wrote, he's very happy, he's in Ethiopia to convert the Ethiopian Jews. So they started the connection of our community, was thinking the only community in the world that remained the Jewish. That was the first beginning. I will give you the source. About our evening, first of all, I would like to thank the foundation that the Ethiopian Jews higher education is on their own agenda. We are about 150,000 Ethiopian Jews. Our asset is our community and our highly potential youth, that's about 50%. Because education, we believe higher education is the key to the entrance of the Israeli society. Higher education now, if you see, we started in 1984. Came many people from the villages, and now there are doctors, medical doctors, there are educators, and there are many because of those that are giving an opportunity. The key thing is giving an opportunity to the Ethiopian Jews. I believe we have high potential. We are so hardworking, and we really want to be integrated into the Israeli society. There are obstacles, and I will talk later on about the obstacles. And thank you for the initiation.
Okay, Michal, can I ask you weigh in on why does it matter and why is higher education of such prime importance today, now more than ever?
I think it's this Michal, so I'm going to pipe in, and if it was the other
Yeah.
Michal, then she'll
Yeah.
interrupt me. So first of all, thank you, Shauna, and thank you for this opportunity to discuss what I think is one of the most fundamental issues to Israeli society, and I think the world at large. It challenges us, and in terms of social mobility that I think Nagist referred to, higher education is the key. I agree with Nagist. On a more specific or internal basis, where the state of Israel is concerned, and much of the work that actually, the Aliyah and Klita Committee, the Immigration and Absorption Committee at the Knesset, has given a lot of attention to in the last few months since I sit on the committee, is integration, but integration that really ensures social mobility. So what we actually saw over time, and the road to hell is paved with good intentions. It really was with good intentions. Was that the legislation that intended to provide integration of the Ethiopian Aliyah to Israel, which was a miracle. And Wanana told her story, and I want to relay just my own personal understanding that really was part of my formation of my own identity, part of my political identity, my legal identity, my personal identity, is through the story of this incredible community that actually thought that they were the last Jews on the planet. When they first saw white Jews, they said, "What? You're Jewish?" They were preserving what was our heritage as deeply, as committed as you can imagine. There was no one left in the world, as far as they were concerned, that was preserving Jewish heritage. And it's very important to understand. And things that actually skipped over them historically, Hanukkah and Purim, weren't celebrated by Ethiopian Jews because they were there when that happened here. So you can imagine another millennia of preserving identity in all of the struggles, in all of the trials and tribulations, and how difficult that was, and the legacy and the richness of that community. And of course, for me on a personal level, my own father's commitment as a human rights activist to this incredible community that preserved our Jewish identity for all of us. So that commitment comes from there. And if I go back to the work at the Aliyah and Klita Committee, the Immigration and Absorption Committee at the Knesset, and my work throughout the committees, including the Shdula, the caucus, which I'm actually going to be launching in 2 weeks, to ensure the integration of Ethiopian Aliyah to the state of Israel, and the commitment of the state of Israel to this integration, proper integration, and real social mobility, is where I think that all of this evening merges, right? So we see incredible role models, Nagist, Wanana, Mehrav, incredible role models to a whole generation of women and men, but I'm glad, that we have women here, pioneering. But the commitment is beyond that. It's not for the Ethiopian community. It's for Israel. It's for the sake of Israel. You say in Hebrew, bizchut velo b'chesed. This is like the most fundamental paradigm shift that I challenge us to have around the table, around the decision makers table, is what every aliyah, and especially this aliyah, brings with it to our awareness as the state of Israel, to the general public of the state of Israel. And so I think if we are successful at creating this paradigm shift, then we'll have, I would say, pushed all of Israel's society forward, not in social mobility, not just the Ethiopian community, but the entire gamut, the entire Israeli society at large, and the Jewish people at large, I would dare say, because I think this challenges and places that can really benefit all of us. And that is where the imperative comes from.
That's a wonderful, wonderful message, and exciting, and just to the core. I'd love to speak to Mehrav. Mehrav being a graduate student herself and reaching for the stars, and would love to hear, your perspective on, why higher education was your route and why it matters so much.
course. Hi, everyone. I'm glad to be here. So my name is Merav Aspas. I'm doing my master. I'm currently doing my master at the Hebrew University in the field of international development. And thank you about the important question. I want to answer why now we're talking about the challenge. It's true that we have a lot of challenge in a lot of different sectors in the health, in the education, and diplomacy. But we have challenge at the higher education. But I believe that we are in process of learning and solving the challenge and the problem that we have in these days, and we can see it at the COVID-19 and in the relation of countries. But I believe that establish the generation of Ethiopian Israeli academics is necessary for the growth, the next leaders in Israel and the world too, in all the different sectors. And this is the way to create a social change. Um, and that really give it, and this way is the way to give a right it's the right equal opportunity for everyone, not only for the Ethiopian Jews. So this is what I think.
Beautiful. And Wanana, what was one of your biggest challenges of deciding to actually go back to school, and to, go back to for a graduate degree, what were the challenges of taking that on?
Well, now the challenge is what we're doing now, the Zoom. It's one of the challenges.
Me too.
But, yeah, but other than that, I think the challenge was also because I'm married and I have 3 kids. So even though I had my kids during my BA, so I'm familiar with that. The COVID kind of changed things. And one of the challenges is also like the financial aspect of it. Like, can I devoted myself fully to get a higher education? I'm right now I'm a graduate student for in a program called the Elite Guardians in Tel Aviv University, which I think is super important program. That is, the point of it is to research the holy scripts of the Ethiopian community, which never been dealt with. No one did it ever, not here, not in Israel, not abroad. And what that gives, like that gave me that social how to say, like, enthusiastic to be like a person of change. It's great to sit and learn, but it's also great for the younger generation to be taught by someone like me and Merav and other Ethiopian fellows. It's very I mean, the University of Tel Aviv did great by bringing this program to life and start this year as the first year and have 5 great students, including myself. I hope I'm good. I hope we'll do good. But they really came to the understanding that we should research. We have the cultural background. We have at least the language. And it would be the most authentic research that can actually bring all this interpretation of the Torah, the Orit, that's been written in Giz. So I think it's a very important program, especially from the educational point of view. And also, there is a student with me. I never thought about it, but he said whenever I went to yeshiva and everything, so everyone came with their own background and heritage. Like, the Yemen came with their scripts, and he came with nothing. And he felt always kind of ashamed, like, my heritage doesn't have anything. And And like I said in the beginning, there is a lot to uncover and discuss about the Ethiopian heritage, especially within the way we preserved ourselves for 2,000 years away from everyone. I mean, there is something that kept us all together, practicing Judaism and waiting and yearning to go back to Yerushalayim. So that, I think, is a key role, especially within our community, especially now that, you know, the elders are elders. So we don't know how long they'll be with us, and we don't have a lot of time to learn from them, to put it in writing and bring our culture to the academia, especially the religion aspect and other aspects as well.
So Michal Barak, hello. And, you know, when Anna touched upon heritage and culture, and that's your area of inclusion and celebrating multiculturalism on campus, I'm wondering, you know, your view on the importance of higher education for the Ethiopian community at this time.
Thank you, Shana, and thanks everybody for being here and for inviting us. So I'd like to actually start with some numbers and some data about Ethiopian Israelis in higher education. So we are having, it's a big progress in the last few years, and it's due to and thanks to a government effort to actually have more and more students join higher education. So as of today, or actually last year, almost about 1.2% of all of our students are from the Ethiopian community. And this has been, in the last 5 to 7 years, a growth of about 30%. However, so we said 1.2% are from the Ethiopian community. However, the Ethiopian community is more than 1.7% of Israeli population. And if you look at the ages of 20 to 29, they're 2.5%. So only half of the Ethiopian Israelis in the relevant age would join higher education. And most of them, actually, 2/3 of them, go to what we call colleges. So these are higher education institutions, but in Israel, we have research universities, such as Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, that are here today, and others. And we have very, very good colleges spread out throughout the country, but it's different. It's not a research university. They have less advanced degrees. They don't have PhD programs. And what I want to stress is really the importance of the advanced degrees, of creating academic leadership within the Ethiopian community in Israel. So my main point would be that quality higher education, which is key for academic leadership, is important not only on the personal level of each and every student, but also on the community level. And Michal also talked about the Israeli society level, right? But if we have academic leadership, this will pull the whole community forward and lift other people's. I just want to mention this government effort that has been that has started some 7 years ago and worked with young people throughout the country when they get out of the army or others, and then they support students financially and academically in the different institutions. But the focus of this program is really to have more and more students. The focus isn't necessarily to have students to create this leadership, this academic leadership. And why is it so crucial? So first of all, if you have a quality higher education and you have advanced degree in higher education, that is a graduate degree or a PhD, you're better able to attain high-level employment, positions of leadership in various fields. This will also open the way for Ethiopian Israelis to take a position in government committees, in government itself, in public life, in the social sector, in the civic, the third sector. We need to create a critical mass of Ethiopian Israeli faculty members and university graduates who will inspire young people to follow them. They will be the role models for other Ethiopian Israeli students. And I think, moreover, we need to, as Winona just said, to promote research that is done by Ethiopian faculty members or researchers on the Ethiopian heritage. And without, you know, for many years, all of our countries have battled and about what to include in the curriculum and what not to include. And it is acknowledged that the influence attitudes that what is included influences attitudes and reflects power dynamics. And if we want to be able to teach a topic, we want to be able to inform policy change, we need research, and we need researchers that will actually promote it. So when Anna and Merav told us a little bit about their barriers, I'd like to say a little bit more. So for one, I think for a lot of Ethiopian Israelis, universities are out of their horizon of dreams. They wouldn't even think or consider applying. It is hard to get admitted, and they have to leave their house in order to go to university. Not always, but often. So it's easier to go, if you actually do attend higher education, to go to the college near your home. It's not easy to get admitted, and you have to secure the finance. You have to make sure that you can provide many, many times for yourself, but also for your family. And if you actually leave your home and go study elsewhere in a big university, you have to provide, you have to have a place to live and to finance yourself. Moreover, if you actually do that for a BA, for a first degree, then you take time off from work for a couple of years. But in order to go on and go for advanced studies, it has to really be something that you know that you can do, and that you know in advance that you have the finance that will make sure that you can afford it. So I think the financial issue is crucial. I think it's also an issue, a psychological issue, and we have to open our doors more and get more and more students to come. And I think creating a leadership, an academic leadership, and more role models are crucial for that. But it's mostly for a young Ethiopian Israeli to know that they can actually do it financially, that they can support themselves, that they can take the 7 to 9 years of attaining a PhD degree to actually study and without any financial support from home. So it's well-known issues of first generation to education, and much more so with this community in Israel. In order to really, I think, pull everything and lift the community as a whole, creating an academic leadership means making sure that more and more Ethiopian students attend universities, acquire higher degrees, and have peers and attend a leadership program that they can actually, get more skills and be able to be role models for for their communities. Thank you.
Beautiful. Wow. That definitely gives us a better understanding of the challenges of taking on, the goal of continuing on education. So I'm putting Nagist, I have a question. What personal advice do you give to your students to encourage them to stay in school and to continue on with graduate education?
I would like let me start why higher education and the impact on my life. I arrived in Israel in 1984, a mother of 4 children, and I was a social worker in Ethiopia. After 3 months of Ulpan in Nadrat Illit, I was looking for a job. I was referred to work in the factory. I said, why in the factory? I was a social worker in Ethiopia. I have to go and continue my education. The first barrier was economically, how could I pay the school fee? In Bar-Ilan University, I started my education. My dream was how to break a poverty cycle in the Israeli society. If I don't go to higher education, I will be a Black underclass in the Israeli society. So I continued my BA degree and my master's degree and my PhD. That means the breaking circle, the breaking of poverty cycle, not only for myself, my 4 kids they are independent economically, and I myself in a high position, and I help for many other people, even in my status as a head of a division of education. What I would like to say is, there are many students that are coming, and when I go to the universities and talk to students, the first thing what they mention is the cultural difference. We grow in such culture, they can't really integrate it easily in the student's life. And the other thing is emotional problem. You know, when you go to the university for the first time, you don't have Hebrew. Your color is differently changed. You don't have strong family background. You don't have role model at home. So when you go, all these things to be considered by the university to support the students. There is a gap that means Hebrew is very important. Hebrew is not our mother tongue. Most of the kids grow in the house. Hebrew is not their mother tongue. The mother is not speaking Hebrew, and the father is not speaking Hebrew. The only thing they have is the conversation with their friends and also in the school system. So lack of facilities. They don't have the facilities to go to the university, to have computers, internet access at home, or enough place to sit and study. Dormitories are very important. Dormitories, universities should offer dormitories for the Ethiopians because they have a very small houses and they have 5, 6 brothers at home. They can't sit and study even. They don't have seats and chairs and such lighting. Education, higher education, it's beyond higher education for our. It's a necessity. It's very important. The Ethiopian community knows, everybody knows. My mother doesn't read Hebrew and knows, and she has no any idea, but she knows, encourages me to have my PhD in Israel. So there is awareness. The only thing that we can integrate into the Israeli society is only higher education. I I appreciate and also bless everybody, give opportunity to go to the university. That means you prevent a black future underclass. Two, you give an opportunity and break also the poverty cycle, the future poverty cycle of those families. The impact is strong impact.
Beautiful. I'm just integrating everything you just said, Nigis. It's empowering. And what we have some wonderful questions in our chat that I just want to bring up because we have such. Yeah, Wanana has a comment. Wanana, did you have a comment, or she just froze? Okay. I'm just going to go into the chat because we have so many great questions in here that I want to bring forward from all the viewers.
Yeah, and a few words. Just
sure, of course, of course.
In addition to what Nigis said, I can relate to it as a kid. I mean, she came here already as a mother. So for me, coming at 3 years old, starting school, I came to first class Kita Aleph, and no one was there with me. I mean, homework, no one could help me at home. Everyone was in kind of the first years of Israel. So I remember that I used to finish all my homework in class. I was so eager to learn. The family pushed you to study. And I must say that a lot of the time you see that Ethiopian really excel in school, excel in elementary school, excel in high school, and they're socially also very well integrated with their friends. They a lot of the time popular among the friends, and when they go to the army, they also excel. But after the army, something shifts, something changes, because then you're on your own. Because until then, you have the free education from the states, and you have the help. And when you need to do the big step, the big leap to get higher education so you can do better and well, It's I think it's more it's a struggle for when you don't have
The infrastructure.
the infrastructure after the army. So that's why I think that higher education is super important. I remember as a third grade girl who used to go with my parents to the PA meeting, and I will translate them about my grades and how I'm doing in school. So you gotta understand that the starting point is very there is a gap between us and others, especially from the background and the culture that we come from. But there is always a supportive family and to push us to go and study. Uh, like I said, but again, like we do great when everything is like, when you're home and you have the tuition being paid and you don't need to worry about that. But once that is off and you become a citizen, after 18 and after the army, you're like on your own pretty much.
Right.
Then it becomes a little bit more difficult in that aspect.
No, that's incredibly helpful in understanding, where we can help, and a call out for how government can help, how foundations can help, how everybody online can help, and really to fulfill, the need of transitioning, between framework and non-framework, which, I know is a challenging years to begin with, never mind all the other obstacles that are on top. So I bring it to Michal Kotler. You talked about, ensuring that the laws proposed in Israel regarding integrating Ethiopian citizens in the workplace are top level, and what the government is doing. I'd love you to just weigh in a little bit more about that and share what's going on.
So it has to do a lot with what Michal, my dear friend, actually mentioned before, because when you think about, the original intent was just to ensure integration in the workplace. But when we measure where that integration is, then it's not at the higher echelon positions, whether it's in public sector or, political sector and even, the private sector. So at the end of the day, I think that education is the enabler for us to not need legislation. There shouldn't be a minimum RAF, right? If we had this under control, if there was assurance that we created the social mobility that Wanana spoke about also, and I just want to add one more component, because from my familiarity of students from the Ethiopian community, it comes with almost like a sense of guilt, because after the army, you should go and work and help your family, right? It's not just about yourself. It's an additional component of watching your parents who've worked so hard your whole life to give you everything that they can. And then at this point, to have to take the pause and say, no, I'm going to pursue higher education for the goal of, advancing my career is a very, very difficult decision. In that sense, I think that the legislation that we have currently, and we're looking more and more at how we ensure that it's top level positions and not just minimal or a head count of how much integration we've succeeded to have, because that doesn't mean anything to me. The fact that we've succeeded, and we haven't, by the way, in terms of percentages, and Michal referred a little bit to the empirics of it, in terms of percentages of where in the public and certainly in the political sectors, we see the integration of Olim, by the way, of all Olim. Shauna said, I'm from Montreal, from Canada. There aren't, that many Olim in the public political sector. Where there are many Olim is maybe in the private sector, in the philanthropic sectors, in the high-tech, industry. And we do see many more Olim. But I think that the importance of government taking a piece or a part in this is also to ensure that the viewpoint diversity around the table in the decision-making intersections of the public life in Israel, of political life in Israel, actually affects change onwards. And the way to ensure that at the end of the day is academia, is an academic degree, and I very much wanted to relate to what Wanana said about research and the importance of research. It's also, it reminded me of the concept of about us, not without us. So it's not that I should be studying incredible heritage of the Ethiopian community that held on to our heritage. As far as I'm concerned, it's my heritage too for so long. It's the Wanana who should be studying it with the language skills that maybe she has, and also in terms of understanding where she can take that forward in academia, but also in the public political sector. One more thing that I wanted to say about in general about the importance of the highest level of government or of public life or of integration into the workplace is there's something else that I think we have to be very aware of, and that is when we look at the numbers, when we look at the percentages, what happens sometimes, and I say this is almost as a warning to our discussion here this evening, is there's a random there's a bit of a tracking of programs that exist for a short-lived period. They're not holistic long-term plans. They're short-lived programs. Maybe they're scholarships. Maybe they look like a fund that comes in and has, the benefit of 3 to 5 years, but it's insufficient unless there are, and that's the role of government again, unless there are long-term plans to ensure that there is really a change over time, because it's not enough to have one program or two programs. For it to be a fundamental change and to have long-term benefits, it has to be a systemic change. And I think that that's something else that I see as part of my role, certainly sitting around the committee, discussions at the moment, because I love the third sector in Israel. I think it is the most impressive manifestation of what it means to be an Israeli and a Jew in Israel, and that willingness to roll up sleeves and say, there's a vacuum here, I identify the vacuum, I'm going to step in and I'm going to create change. And that is amazing. And I think that the partnership between private and public sectors can really affect change. But that should never be replaced by the public awareness and the public sector and the political sector owning it and taking responsibility for it. Because otherwise, if the vacuum actually opens up again, or if the private sector disappears, which we know from so many other programs as well, then the fundamental change hasn't actually happened. It has to happen over a lengthy period of time for actually, a generation to be affected in that way, to have a full, group of leaders in academia, in public sector, in, wherever, in the media, in the private industry. And so that's one more thing that I caution, myself about, or decision makers about, in terms of public and private and that's always true for the third sector in general. And that's it. In terms of legislation, as I said, legislation is a double-edged sword. I wish we didn't need legislation, right? Because if we need legislation, it means we haven't done it organically. It means we haven't done well enough. And legislation sometimes becomes a minimal threshold rather than, what we are looking to do. And so that is something that we challenge ourselves to reflect on, including in the Diaspora and Immigration Committee as we speak. I mean, that's come to the fore in the past few weeks, as I said, and we should continue reflecting on what is the best way to ensure this.
Well, I appreciate the recognition of, all sectors and having a role to fill these vacuums. And part of the scholarship is a requirement for, is doing community involvement. And I know that Merav and Wanana are very busy doing a lot of community engagement. To Merav and Wanana, can you comment on your personal aspirations, your vision, your desired contribution to the future of the community from your perspective as students and young leaders, being so connected to your community and your outreach? Merav? Okay. Go ahead. Merav?
Wanna go for it? I will be after you.
You want to go after Wanana? Okay, Wanana.
Yeah.
Wanana?
Yes.
She froze.
Okay.
Okay.
So from my point of view, I've been always, as a kid, I always been in youth movements like Bnei Akiva and things like that. So I was always on the education kind of department in a way. Also, just by being an example to my family, and I'm the first one who is in graduate program, and to see my sister now is like 44, striving to be a nurse, and she's doing like a different degree to get to nursing school easily because she cannot do the psychometry or things like that. So it's like big effect that happens. And on my free time, I would say, I volunteer in an organization called Negat, which means dawn in Amharic. And the whole point is really to kind of bring the brightest Ethiopian professionals, Israelis, to the front of the ecosystem, the business ecosystem in Israel, whether it's in the third sector or private sector. So we do a lot of collaborations with, like, Bank Poalim and WeWork and other people. Even now there is some conversation with the Waxner program. So we are trying to tell the people who make the decision, to let them know, listen, you have the people who strived and did it and did the graduate programs, and they're really, really smart. Like, don't miss them out. They're right there in front of you. Put them in key role position, put them in the management. Don't leave them on the lower hierarchy in work. And the other venture I have is a Facebook group, a private Facebook group that I started during COVID back in April. It came from my desire to read more Amharic, because I know how to speak it, but I don't know how to read. So I thought, if I have a group of people who study with me, then that would encourage me to study more. So now the group is over, I think, around 2,000 members that are non-Ethiopian origin or Israeli Ethiopians, that they're all there to learn and inform each other about Amharic. And actually, after starting this group, I found out about the Orit Guardians program, that I thought, this is like perfect match. This is what I need. I would like to, my aspiration is really to continue to PhD, to be one of the researchers and teach that. Like I said before, don't teach me about us. Let me research and teach you, and together, like, bring new connections, new whatever needed. Because a lot of the time I'm sitting in lectures about the Ethiopian community, and I'm thinking to myself, that's not accurate. You're missing the cultural reference, or something is like lost in translation in a way. So I'm very happy to be part of this program, and hoping for.
There's not enough hours in the day for you, Anana. That's beautiful, gorgeous. Mirav?
Yeah, so I will be answerable for that. I think in all activists and all plan that I took part of it was connect to education sector. If there's, before the military service, I did a gap year, and I volunteer with the children and the teenagers in the high school and the school. I teach math, little bit English, but more the society of friendship and moral. And after that, I was a counselor at the summer camp in New York, and in my BA, I was volunteering in all the education system, and and after, sorry about it. Okay. In 2015, me and my friends, we saw all the protests the Ethiopian community did, and this was the time we look and said, 1 minute, this is the time for us to look our community and look and research the challenge that we have and how we can fix it and how we can improve our community and lead our community good to another level, to help to each other, to help each other and help another people. And this is what I did. We are set up a project that called Mentors in Community. We took the 6 teenagers in Ethiopian Israeli and the neighborhood of Kfar Saba, and we give them the skills, we give them tools and skills at the sector of art, at the academic, military tools for the military service, and the mission. And I think this is my mission for the community. I think this is what I do. When I look at my community, I want to improve them. And they improve me. My parents always push me to do my best and do in all the sectors, in the academic and in life, in my social life and my personal life. And this is what I want to do. And it's become here in my MA. This is what I do. I learn international development because of that. I want to improve. I want to change, and this is important to me very much.
It's wonderful.
And Negish said, education is the key for everything. And if we want to make equal society, is just with the academic skills and degrees, and that's it.
Well, we heard your message loud and clear. It's Ayala, we have some few questions in the chat box.
Yes, so we have just a couple of minutes. I think I'd like to start wrapping up, but I think this was an excellent way to close this conversation. It's very interesting that Michal Kotler spoke of systemic change that's coming from the government level. And we had a very good question from Jonathan, who said that we can all agree that higher education is a universal good, but how do we encourage more Ethiopian Israelis to attend university in the first place, considering all the barriers? So I think Michal talking about systemic change coming from the top, and Merav, just even in the slice of work that you're doing with the community as a grassroots, that when the two of those come together and when there are enough voices and enough programs and enough people like you making the change, where more of your peers will see this is completely possible for us. The opportunities are out there. What we're doing as a Canadian Friends of Hebrew University, along with the Goodman Family Foundation, is raising money to supply scholarships and to be able to give Ethiopian students a chance at social mobility and at higher education. And I think each one of you plays a part in making this happen. And I think it's absolutely fantastic. I think I'll ask Michal Barak to just say a few words in terms of what we're doing as a university to encourage this, and then we'll wrap it up.
Thank you. So we try in many, many ways. It's not easy. We work with different civic society organizations in order to really reach out to the community. We try to look at our admittance criteria and see what if it's equal enough. And we try to raise funding for students to come to us, mostly for advanced degrees. When we have the students here, we put together leadership programs. We get more and more students to have public events in their community and talk about coming to Hebrew University and to higher education in general. And as I said, it's a long journey. It's a government effort. It's a higher education. The Council of Higher Education puts a lot of effort in it, and all of our institutions. And we are in the beginning of the road because at least in the Hebrew University, we don't have enough Ethiopian students, and we really are willing to have many, many more, and hopefully have some of them get advanced degrees and actually become faculty members. Thank you all very much. I'd like to thank Shauna for moderating and leading this discussion. Thank you, Ayala.
I just want to thank this amazing panel. I am left fully my kishkas are rolling, you know, like really there's as the word the kvelling, like really just seeing both Mirav and Wanana, and you radiate leadership, you radiate strength, you radiate the future. And it just makes me feel incredibly proud of this gift from our family foundation, and the incredible response of everybody online today, and really recognizing the importance of this issue now in real time, and how we can all together make the change. So I invite you to join our family in helping provide the needed scholarship funds that the students desperately need to make this change, and to be partners together in building, you know, the state of Israel, and really what the future leadership is going to be all about. And I thank you all for joining. Really, I'm feeling very emotional, merageshet, as they say here, and truly privileged to be surrounded by such strength and such visionaries. So Shavua Tov, everybody. I wish everybody health and strength and joy, and continue your studies, and making us feel so proud. So, bye, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Goodbye, good night.
להתראות.